DJI just launched their brand new FPV digital system, but who should buy it? And should you? Hi, I'm Ash from DroningON, and as we correctly stated in our last video, DJI has not released an FPV quad, so ignore the clickbaiters. They've actually released a brand new high-definition digital FPV video transmission system, which also caters for the control transmission as well. It's very impressive, but it's also quite expensive at over $800. Just a quick note before we start, if you love content like this and if you want to hear breaking news first, smash that subscribe button, because the more subs I have, the more exclusives I can bring to you. Now, for those of you that are quite new to FPV, you may not be aware of all of the components that go into flying an FPV drone. First of all, you need a transmitter like this one, which is the Taranis X9D. Lovely transmitter, and this one transmitter lets me switch between over 100 different models that I want to fly. And that's not just FPV quads, it can include planes, helicopters, and also other types of radar-controlled aircraft. That's the first thing you need. There are different variants of transmitters like this, which is my new favorite, the FrSky X Lite. This I use instead of the Taranis now. It's just smaller and more portable. One of those transmitters is going to set you back about $100 to $200. Next, you need a set of goggles, and these are my favorites, the Fat Shark HD3s. Now, I like the HD3s over the HDOs because they've got a really wide FOV, and for me that means the experience is far more immersive. Goggles like the HD3s will set you back about $400 to $500. Now, bear in mind that these two components alone can cost you as much as the system that DJI have just released, and that doesn't include the VTX, which is the bit that sends the video from the quad to your goggles. It also doesn't include the camera that's on board that quad. And it also doesn't include the receiver that receives the signal from the transmitter. So actually, when you think about it and piece all of this together, the new DJI system actually isn't bad value, especially the fact that this little air unit is all combined and all in one unit. So you might now be wondering about exactly how this air unit works. So I've got lots of quadcopters like this little one, and this one, and that one, and this one, and that one, and anyway, many, many more. Within the center of each of these racing quads, you've got what's known as a stack. And in that stack, you've got a PDB, which is for distributing power. It's a tiny little circuit board. Above that, you might have the flight controller, also known as an FC. And that's what basically tells the quad how to behave, and it also includes all of the sensors, such as, in some cases, a barometer, accelerometer, etc. The flight controller is also the component that you program when we were talking about PIDs and rates in the last video. Now, the new DJI unit doesn't include any of those elements, nor does it include the speed controllers, which run to each motor, or the motors themselves. So basically, to use this new DJI system, you're going to need to buy a frame like this, a carbon fiber frame. You're going to need to know how to rig up your PDB, your motors, your speed controllers, and a flight controller, and then you bolt the DJI Air unit on top. Now, I've got so many quads, I'd love to put this new Air unit onto all of them, but the reality is, I probably wouldn't be able to afford that. So that's the limiting factor of this, because the elements that the DJI unit incorporates, the VTX and the receiver, I can buy those for probably about $50. Now, obviously they are the analog equivalents and they don't have the range of the DJI unit, but that's not necessarily going to reduce my enjoyment of flying FPV. Don't get me wrong, I would love digital video on all of these quadcopters, but not at that kind of cost. The other element, of course, is that you need to know how to put all of this together. Not only do you have to build the frame, which, okay, that's probably quite simple, but you also need to be able to solder. You also need to know how to pair the speed controllers with the motor in terms of getting the right ampage. And also the motors, they all have what's called a KV rating, which is how fast they spin, essentially. You need to match the KV rating with the props that you put on these motors, and you have to match both of those elements with the overall weight of the quad. So there's a lot to consider here. And the point I made in my video before is, are DJI going to aim this at the beginner or the moderate or the professional? And my view, unfortunately, is this is definitely not for beginners. Now, very interestingly, Fat Shark just announced yesterday that their new Byte Frost HD digital FPV system will soon be launched. And of course, Fat Shark are the people behind these goggles here. Now, these are market-leading FPV goggles at the moment, but I must say the only reason they're market leading is because there's nothing better, and that doesn't mean that these are great. They're not. They are brilliant for what they are, but they could be much better. And my frustration, and the frustration of others with Fat Shark, is a minimal lack of evolution. In fact, if you look at the Fat Shark goggles of 5 years ago, they use exactly the same shells and design and style as these here. They just haven't evolved, and they haven't fixed the most basic of issues, such as an on and off button. Now, the benefit of Fat Shark releasing their new system is that Fat Shark are already in the FPV industry. They're well known, they're fairly well respected, and their customer support isn't that bad, although perhaps not much better than DJI's. But you could argue that the support you'll get from Fat Shark might be better than DJI can offer because they've been in the industry a lot longer. The other sign from Fat Shark's announcement is that you'll be able to buy just their video stack alone. You won't have to buy the goggles and the transmitter to go with it. That could also be a benefit in terms of cost. Of course, DJI products are always at a premium, so let's hope that Fat Shark's offering is cheaper. Now, DJI do have a propulsion system called DJI Snail, and that in theory, paired with the new FPV system, could actually result in a full-blown quad from DJI, a pre-built racing drone that you can buy with all of this kit pre-fitted, but that's not going to be cheap. As I mentioned in the last video as well, if DJI do release a pre-built quad, they're up against a lot of competition. For example, from Holybro, this is the lovely Coppice 2, and you can buy this for just over $250 pre-built, ready to fly. All you need is goggles and a transmitter. So all in all, you could get this flying and into the air for probably under $500 if you don't buy premium goggles. You're not going to get that premium digital experience, but as a beginner to this sport, you don't want to be flying around with over £1,000 worth of racing drone, because you will crash it. I have a bit of a quad graveyard in my garage of quads that I just can't be bothered to repair. I've crashed them whilst learning, or I've crashed them whilst trying new stunts and skills, and once you break them, most of the time you can't be bothered to repair them, and I do think that beginners will struggle there in the soldering element as well. Racing drones are not like our Mavics and Phantoms. You don't just buy a new arm from eBay. They require a lot of troubleshooting, and if you do knock them into something, you can smash that camera quite easily, and that's going to be expensive. Anyway, to wrap up, what they've launched is brilliant, and at some point I might test it, but to be quite honest, I'm one of those FPV guys that can't be bothered to build. I like to buy a really good RTF quad, fly it and have fun. I don't get a lot of pleasure from building or soldering. So my advice to you guys, if you've not yet got into FPV but you want to, have a look at the Emax RTF set, because it includes everything that you need to get going, including the brushless quad, a transmitter and a goggle set. And it all costs around $150. So if you do crash it, you can just buy another one. And that is a really, really good way to get into FPV, far better than spending $900 on something that you might not be sure what to do with. Another option is a slightly bigger one, which is the Bugs 6 RTF kit. It's a little bit more expensive, but again, it includes the brushless quad. It's even got LED lights on it. And it includes a transmitter and a big box goggle set as well. And both of those are great value. So have a look at the links in the video description. Try those first. Comment below with your thoughts about all of this. Does this make you want to get into FPV? Or have you already made the move and bought this new system from DJI? Regardless, let me know. Give this video a thumbs up, and please subscribe for more content like this. Thank you very much for watching.